Well, welcome, Jason Tracey. How the tables have turned. Usually I was on your show a couple times. Now you get to be on mine. So,
man, I'm pumped. This is awesome.
Yeah, this will be fun. So we're going to talk about business and some other things today, I guess, rowdy customers and everything.
I worked in retail, so I have my share of those types of stories.
Yeah, we'll tell stories, too, because we all have them. I mean, by the time you're done, retired, at the end of your career, if you work in retail, I imagine you probably, that's where everybody goes. They move up north and hide. You just get tired of people.
I got out of it at the right time. I didn't have to go through COVID. And I remember we were eating breakfast at one point at a restaurant and kind of reflecting as COVID was going through. And my son was 13 at that time. He's like, Dad, things could always be worse. You could be back in retail. And I was like, holy shit, you're right. Oh my God, the people coming in and being like, do you have a mask on? And oh my God, I'm so glad I missed all that shit.
I was one of them guys that just did not wear a mask. I wouldn't just go. I just wasn't wearing a mask. I just kind of felt like it was pointless. It was pointless in my mind, and I've always been a rebel, as you probably could have.
No
so
way.
there was just no way I was playing that game, But we did go by the rules of the law, with this tape on the floor and all that bullshit we did. But it didn't stop anything.
Yeah.
We made it through both of our shops for 2 years and nobody getting it. And think about it. We handle keys
crazy.
and we work in people's truck.
Yep.
We just didn't get it, which was cool. But anyway, about that. So let's start talking about one of the topics I want to talk about. We just talked about it before the podcast is how people feel when business is good, how people feel when business is bad. And I want to hear your perspective on it because you talk to a lot of entrepreneurs. And is it the same mindset? Am I doing enough marketing? Are my prices too high? Well, da-da-da-da. So let's go on with that.
Yeah, it's one of those. I love how you said it. When things are good, you feel like I'm a badass. Puffing your chest out. You feel like the floor is never gonna fall out. You're gonna cruise, and no matter what hits, you're invincible. And I know I was feeling that. Right, we talked about COVID. Right before COVID, it was I fired my highest paying client because they're my biggest pain in the ass, and it was not aligned with what I wanted to continue doing, and so I had fired them. And then 2 days later, the world shut down, and I had a bunch of clients that were like, "Yeah, my business is shut down, and I can't pay you," And it's oh, the floor can fall out on this, and then it's scrambling. I know for me, I was like, oh shit, I'm a consultant working with small businesses and all my clients just got shut down and they don't have any revenue. How am I going to pay bills? How am I going to eat? I went out and I did a bunch of free speaking things and stuff like that. But what I realized was that this is the time that people needed me the most. And the clients that stayed with me they all had their best years, which was so awesome because you look at a time they were all, should I keep paying you? Should we still work together? And they all had their best years that year in business. Period. I had a guy that was a web designer, and he was in business for 25 years. It was the single highest business year to date that year.
Similar thing happened to me. We had used a vendor for doing our sandblasting at Motor City, and he would call me up or call the guys up and be like, "Hey, I'm slow. Do you have anything for me?" And we'd be like, "Yeah, we have this trailer you could do." And we kind of worked back and forth. Well, one day we called them up. We said, "Hey, we need this trailer done." "Yeah, what am I supposed to just do? Drop everything and do it for you?" And acted like a complete asshole. So Jim called me and I'm like, "You know what? He can kiss my ass." I said, "Call him back and tell him to fuck off."
Yeah.
And he's like, "I don't know if I'm going to do it." I'm like, "Yeah, do it." I said, "We're going to put him out of business." And I got on the web and I found Dustless Blasting. I had seen their ads on Facebook, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to spend 65 G's right now on a unit. That was, I don't remember what day it was. Maybe it was a Monday or a Tuesday that whole transaction happened. I got in my truck with Steve Garrett. I said, "You want to go have a road trip?" I drove to Texas, bought it, wrote the check. On the way back, COVID happens. They start closing the world down. So I'm driving along just writing this check thinking, oh my God. I remember thinking to myself, okay, I feel like The Rock. When he's in that movie and the world, he's like, whoa! And look, and the world just collapsing behind him. I'm like, this is so screwed. And, that's when the toilet paper thing was going on. And my wife's like, they're closing the schools, they're doing this. And I'm like green, thinking to myself, my God.
I'm the biggest optimist in the world, and like the government, we're not going to shut down. Like that's, I heard these rumors and things happen. I was like telling my client, no, we're just going to keep moving. Like, and then, oh shit, it really happened.
Yeah. And so I remember going to the hotel that night and got a room and stuff and sat down and started whining like a little bitch to my wife, and she's like, "You know what? You'll be fine." She's like, "I mean, this doesn't even sound like you." I'm like, "Well, haven't really been through the world closing down yet." So we got in a little bit of an argument. And I remember laying in bed that night, like thinking to myself, it was parked outside too, hooked to my truck. I'm like, "Are they going to steal it?" So I didn't sleep at all that night, and I drove all the way back. And you know what we did? We just started sandblasting, and we did just fine. Now we had a really bad year. I'm not going to lie, but we made it.
Yeah. Yep.
So I'm listening to one of Dale Carnegie's books right now talking about worrying. And he says, Mark Twain and everybody talks about don't borrow tomorrow's problems for today. 90% of the stuff you worry about never happens.
Yep.
As a business owner, don't eat tomorrow's bread. Eat today's bread. You can't eat tomorrow's bread.
Yep.
Meaning don't worry about tomorrow's problems, right?
But does it stop us? Because we know that.
No.
But I've heard your podcast and talking about like staying up at night and the brain's running and you're worried about the problems or you're solving the problems because the ideas are now popping and you got to like get them out.
4:00 in the morning, you're like, I wonder if that estimate's done. I don't know if you do that. Or
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
People don't understand being in charge of your own destiny. There's nobody there to help you. If you have a 9-to-5 job and you have a boss and a manager, you go to work, you do a good job, they give you a paycheck on Friday, you go home, right? So with big risk comes big reward, right?
I wouldn't trade this for the world, but you're right. It's there's ups and down years. There's like the big risks. I met a guy a few weeks ago, and he owns a bunch of businesses in Pinckney, and he bought this pet store in Pinckney when he was 18 years old, and the long story short of it is him and his wife became pretty successful and they've had multiple businesses. But this guy had asked him if he could come out and pick his brain because he was thinking about starting a business. And he was telling me about how he was taking this guy through the shop and was like talking about like, yeah, he was like, you got to be able to, if you're getting into business, my biggest advice to you is you got to want it so bad that you're willing to sleep in this back room. He was like, because when I started this, he was like, we didn't have any money. He was like, and I was sleeping in that back room back there. He was like, I'd go to sleep in that back room. I'd wake up. It made an easy work conversion. I'd come out. I'd hustle, and we had to live like that. He was like, all the way to when we had our first kid, those couple years, like I had to live like that. Are you willing to live like that?
Yeah, you're 100% right.
You got to make the sacrifices in order. You got to do today what others won't so you can do what others can't later.
And I would agree with that. And I've always been a guy that likes to go to work and stuff like that. But now some days on Friday at 4:00 when I know everything's closed for 2 days, both companies, I'm like, I don't have to deal with bullshit for 2 days. And, my cousin has a security company. I think he's got 175 employees. And we went to his birthday party the other night. He had 16 people call in. So he's got these venues where you have to have all these security guards, and these 16 people just don't show up for work. I mean, that's stress right there because you have contracts with, these arenas and stuff like that, these concert venues, and these people just don't show up. Now with this new laws that come out, this paid-off sick time bullshit they got going on, I mean, it's an attack on small business, and people don't show up for work. And, you as a business owner, like I always tell my wife, I will never own a business that I cannot go and do myself.
Yeah.
If somebody doesn't show up, I can walk in and do it myself. Just like you. If you brought somebody in, you built the processes. You know what's going on, the policies and stuff. So if he's not there, you could slide in.
Absolutely.
But you're not going to go have a hair salon. Your hairdresser doesn't show up. You're going to go cut hair. That could be bad for business.
That'd be really bad for business.
Right. So I've always been one of them guys that's kind of like, well, you got to stay in your own lane. I've always stayed with fixing stuff. And I'm sure you sound like you've been into the business aspect of coaching. Tell us how your transition went, because I really have not heard that story.
Yeah. So, and we talk about like the bad business owners and whatnot. Like I think we have similar situations where we got put in a situation where we started working for a company that was going bankrupt. They were hemorrhaging money. I knew going into the company that I was going to work for that they were millions of dollars in debt. There was a managing partner that she was amazing, or she is amazing, and she was wanting to rebuild this company, but she was facing either file for bankruptcy, close up, and settle with the banks, that kind of thing. Second option was you could try to sell what you have, break off, your assets and try to sell them to another agent and see if they can, see if you can recoup some of your loss. The last option was throw up a Hail Mary, bring in somebody from the outside, try to rebuild your company, restructure the debt, work with the banks, restructure the debt, and, some of these other things. So that's what she decided to do, and she brought me in. And it's funny because I always say millions of dollars in debt. We were in a cell phone industry, and people are like, how did you get millions of dollars in debt? And this story is so crazy. We talk about bad business owners. When I look at bad business owners, we've talked about so many different things of whether they don't look at their numbers. I remember coming in in the cellular industry, agents that were around for a long time would get paid a residual. Yes. So for the amount of customers they have, historically, they get paid a residual. As long as they're still with Verizon, this company would get a back end amount of money. And so with these old school guys that came into cellular when cellular was so freaking easy that anybody could open up a store and just make millions of dollars.
You had to get the NAM burned or whatever.
The NAM burned. And they were, the cost of, you were making tons of money to where what happened was salespeople that were really successful in the industry when it first boomed ended up buying their own stores. And so now all of a sudden you have all these people that just never knew adversity. They're just selling, right? And all of a sudden they own their own locations. And then they build up over this time, this company they did their good things or whatnot, but this guy ended up getting Parkinson's disease, and he was a little off his rocker in the first place. And he started this passion project. He started building towers in Ann Arbor, and he called it the Wireless Washtenaw. And he was trying to build Wi-Fi towers in Washtenaw to provide Wi-Fi for all of Washtenaw County. And he was actually having some success to where he had the infrastructure up to where he got the attention of Sprint and AT&T, and they sat down with him, invited him to meetings, and offered him millions and millions of dollars to sell his infrastructure.
I guess he didn't.
He said, fuck you guys. I'm going to be the next Sprint. I'm going to be the next AT&T. Had no, so he kept taking loans from the bank, taking loans from the bank. He had no income coming in because he's trying to build up something that he has clients that are paying the little amount. The money that they're paying is not making a chip out of the loans he's taking out of the bank. And he lit fires to all the people that wanted to buy his equipment until he had so much debt that they just came and took his stuff, just took it.
He literally won. When they came to him and sat down at the table and said, we want to buy this stuff, he won. The same thing happened. I don't know if you know the story of delayed windshield wipers. Same thing. Guy designs short story, so I want you to keep going. Designs intermittent windshield wipers. GM, Ford, Chrysler go to, I don't remember how the story goes. Hey, we want to buy this. All I want is to do this in my little shop and have my own little business, but we want to buy. No. Okay. We'll just go build our own. You don't have enough money to compete. Took his shit.
Well, dude, and just think if okay, you want to do something cool and you want to do something big, great. You don't have the capital. Take their fucking money and then go do something great. It's that little thinking. And he had the thinking enough to be able to get to this point, but then his ego or whatever the case may be was stupid gas, and he didn't realize, or he wasn't aware of really his lid. He couldn't take it to where he wanted to take it.
Yeah.
It was impossible.
He didn't look at So and he was a cell phone store?
He started off these retail cell phone stores. And so what happened was his passion became this project that he's pouring all this money into. And so he literally had these employees that were selling cell phones, but he would come in and hawk all their equipment. And he had a company meeting that I've heard that he pulled everybody in the company together and said, I really don't care about you guys. Essentially, I'm paraphrasing. I really don't care about you guys. This is my project over here. And essentially, when I can get money freed up, I'm going to, you may not have equipment and you may not have anything to sell because I'm just going to sell whatever I can in order to pour money into this project. And this is my love over here. You told them flat out, this is what I'm focusing on. So what do you think that does to a bunch of employees sitting around?
Yeah. And how many companies over the years have you seen where they start getting a little bit of success? And we'll just say I own a truck repair shop and a truck collision shop.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, I'm like, okay, I'm going to open a pet shop and breed exotic fish because I always thought that was good money. I know nothing about it. I start taking the two companies' money and start pouring into this project, which I know nothing about, and they go out of business. You've seen that hundreds and hundreds of times over the years. I have, where they don't stay in your own lane.
Yeah.
I've
in your lane.
always stayed fixing stuff.
Yeah.
That's what I do. I've always fixed stuff. I'm a mechanic. I've always fixed stuff. So when I wanted to get into a new, I started doing antique motorcycles. That got boring. You know what I mean? I always stayed right there. There's guys that take a left turn all the time. There's a perfect example. Lost everything, right?
Lost everything, and then he got Parkinson's disease. So he's already kind of erratic, and then he gets Parkinson's, and there's so many crazy stories of this guy showing up one day with a chainsaw and cutting down a tree in the parking lot while customers are in the store, and it like falls in front of the door and blocks everybody, and just like crazy erratic stuff this guy was doing. But Debbie, who was his managing partner, she owned one of her biggest pieces of advice to me is if you ever own a business, never ever ever become a minority owner. Because you have no say. Your name is part of everything, but you have no say in what's going on.
No, you're right. I always give that advice. Hey, I'm opening a business with a partner. I'll take Dave Ramsey's lines. The only ship that doesn't sail is a partnership, 99% of the time.
Yep.
I had a partnership for once, or I've had it twice, and one partner ends up doing more work than the other. It's just the way it is. You have different visions. So you're right. It's just... I always tell people, hey, if you're going to do it and open it, you're putting the capital in or something, get 51%, leave them at 49.
Yes. Yeah. Because then you get the decision power. And that's what she said. You never even do a 50-50 because you're out of control. You have no control over it.
Right. You have to, exactly. That's just a whole messy thing right there.
So that was cool learning from her, but I had a lot of success in the industry, and I was in a situation where I took a retail location, and it was the worst retail location in the company that I was working for, to the point where Verizon told my boss, my mentor, you need to get somebody in there. You need to reshape this store. We're just going to pull our license out of here.
Are these local to here?
Yeah, local. So the one that I started, the store that I'm just now talking about, that I went out and rebuilt, was in Lansing, and then the company that I was with that was millions of dollars in debt, that was in Ann Arbor. So they had 2 locations in Ann Arbor and 1 in Jackson when I started. And so my mentor was with a guy that they were trying to sell. They were trying to sell their parts to. But the big thing is they couldn't get the residual. They couldn't transfer the residual. So it meant that there was no value there. And so my mentor was like, I'm out. However, if you want to build this thing up, I do have a guy on my team that I think would be a good fit for you. And I don't want to lose him per se, but I think that he's ready to move up, and I have nowhere to put him. And I think that he would be great for you. And Dean, love the guy. We've had so many conversations since then. He thought that I would fail. He thought that, I would go, or I'd have a little success, and then I'd miss where I was at and come back when he was going to, offer me another position. But I took this as my mission. This lady she's amazing. But she told me, she's like, I have no idea how I'm going to pay you. She's like, we have literally no money. I know that you're extremely valuable, and I want you, but I have no idea how we're going to pay you. And so I took a little tiny salary, but I looked at all of their numbers, and I saw they didn't sell any insurance product, for example. And the insurance product they were selling, the company I came from, the owner of that company started that insurance company, and my take rate for my individual location was 70%. And so I'm like, give me 50% of those profits. And she's like, we're making $0. I'm like, I know. Just give me 50% of the profits when they come in. And she was like, okay. And I'm like, and then over here, give me 25% of this. And I'm just kind of throwing numbers in because I knew I was going to come and blow the roof off the house,
Right.
And so I came in, and the first thing I started teaching people was sales in general, but I started really developing people and teaching them how to sell the insurance product. I even went out, and one of the first things I did is I bought it was during the Red Wings were good, and they were going for the Stanley Cup. And I went and got this cup. It looked like a Stanley Cup. And I did this thing. It was called ProtectSell was our insurance plan. And I threw out a contest. Whoever sells the most insurance plans this month will get their name engraved on the cup with the amount they did it, the month they did it, the year. And this thing ended up becoming a legend in our company. And I still have it in my garage. It stands about this tall now. It used to, when I got it, it was about that tall, off this desk. And now it's that tall. And it just has names of people. And the coolest thing is people would I had guys that would stay till 11:59 at night on the last day of the month trying to sell insurance plans to their customers, on the phone, just so they could get their freaking name on the cup.
Isn't that crazy?
It's so crazy. I had this one guy that was a rock star. I brought him over from I had mentored and developed him, and I brought him over from the company I was with, and I plugged him in, and he was my example setter. He showed everybody, what's possible when you don't have a shitty mindset, because I'm coming into people that just got told like, we don't care about you, and so guess what? They don't give a shit. Like, I've walked in, I shopped all their locations before I took the job, and I walked in and nobody wanted to sell me anything. Everybody wanted me to get out of the store so they could go back to their talk, or they could go hang out on the computer, or they could go do whatever they were doing other than working, because nobody cared about them, right? And so they were having fun. They were just hanging out, and they didn't care if the company made any money because they don't care about them. So I came in and was like, no, this is now serious. And I used to tell my wife, like, I'm pretty sure they got a voodoo doll and they're sticking pins in me, and they're letting air out of my tires and they're like doing all the kind of stuff. And I ended up having to fire, or, people just kind of selectively left, and I rebuilt the company, and I rebuilt it. It was during the recession, like 2008. And I rebuilt it with a lot of young people and a lot of people that were misplaced out of their careers because of the recession. So they were laid off of their jobs. And I just taught them how to take care of people, how to serve people. I got to be really competitive. I shifted the narrative on, if we do this, if we take this shit ass company and we build it up to being one of the top companies in our industry, what does that do for your career?
Right.
What does that do for you?
Right.
I know what it did for me. I took a low performing location and it transitioned me and put me here to where I'm now in a position to continue to grow my career. And guess what? If I now take this company and I get it out of debt, and then, we lead this company to greatness, what does that do for my career now?
Right.
And so I saw that picture very clearly, and then I sold other people. I don't care if this is not your full-time, I don't care if this is not your thing that you want to do for the rest of your life, but let's look at don't waste your time either. You're going to be here for 2 years, let's make fucking money.
Right.
Let's develop, let's change your life.
Right.
So that when you leave here, you're going to be promoted to leadership. You're going to be, you can go have big boy, big girl careers without going to college.
What did the numbers look like after your first 6 months?
First 6 months, we grew by 500%, really, really quickly.
Isn't that crazy?
It's just
a little bit of
just
effort.
A little bit of effort.
Yep.
And in those first 6 months, I still had a lot of legacy employees that were like fighting me all along the way. That was the most difficult time.
Yeah, I've seen this 100 times. At that point, it's almost like you have to turn over your crew.
Turn them over. Yep. And my mentor taught me, if you can't change your people, you got to change your people. I don't think that people truly want to show up at work and suck. I
agree.
And so, like, we talk about, like, what do you do as a good company and a good owner? And I love how you've said several times, like, I'm not going to be the guy that made millions of dollars on the broken backs of people.
Yeah.
Like, I look at it like, my job as a leader or as a business owner is to raise these people up and to give them opportunity.
Right, not drag them up.
Like,
some of these people want you just like to do everything.
Yep.
Well, I'm not doing this. Well, what have you done?
Exactly.
Yeah.
What have you done? What are you giving back to your people?
Yeah.
Why would they be happy to be here and happy to take care of your clients?
Yeah, and it's the big unsell is what I always tell people. It's like, you could sell stuff. You could be really good at stuff, but you could also be really good at unselling stuff. Like, you just keep talking and talk. Here's a little story. My Verizon bill just keeps growing for my companies.
Yep.
It's like $700 a month. I'm like, this is ridiculous. So I was at the mall with everybody Saturday, my family and the grandkids and everything, and I'm like, they're sitting there talking. I'm like, I'm gonna walk over to T-Mobile. So I walk over to T-Mobile. The girl's like, "Hi, how you doing?" I start talking. I'm like, I think I have 7 or 8 phones. She pulls it out. She's like, $290. I'm like, I don't need insurance because when I buy the phones, I buy them unlocked and I buy the Apple Care. So if they break, I take them back to Apple. It's just easier that way. Okay, and I don't need to do this. I don't need, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, if you do auto pay, it'd be $290. Okay, well, Tuesday I'll come in. The manager comes over. Well, you really should think about our insurance. It's better. We give you Netflix and this. It would only be $390 a month. I'm like, wait a second here. You came in the middle of this conversation. We've already talked about but I already have Apple Care. Well, we give you Apple Care. I can't have double Apple Care. So she literally talked and kept trying to sell me another $100. It pissed me off. I said, you know what? You've unsold me now.
Yep.
Thank you very much. I'm out of here.
Yep.
And the girl who did a very good job was kind of like,
yeah.
But
sucks for her.
Yeah.
But your manager just ruined it. Yeah.
Yeah. Why would you even come over there and butt in and try to upsell another $100? What did you get out of that besides loss?
Lost business.
I'm like, what the hell? And I've gone to these classes. I never had to go to the ones that Steve and my brother went to years ago, Management Success, the service advisor school, learning how to sell. I never had to.
Yep.
I've gone to little seminars, which I'm thinking I do all this stuff anyway. I'm never too arrogant to think I can't learn something. I've definitely learned stuff. But they would have you say, okay, Jason, you need brakes on your car. And just stare.
That's messed up.
So you could get used to telling people and giving, selling, because, you need brakes in your car. This is you're over here going, stop. Yeah.
Yeah. Just stop and take a breath.
Yeah. So I've seen that stuff too. So when you're selling somebody, what's a short, let's talk about how you train them guys to do that, because this is important, because people don't know how to sell.
No, they don't know how to sell. I see sales. This is why I even started my business, is because I see sales as serving people at the highest level. The cell phone this is another really good point, is like, if you're in an industry that people hate, good for you. Because you now have a chance to be able, what the problem is, what people hate about that industry, now be the opposite of that. And so I built a culture where we were like the Cheers. People come in and we know their name, we know their problems, we listen to them, where, it's not just let me sell you this insurance and all these things because I've been told to sell these things. Like, let me get to know you and understand you and create a repeat customer, so that every time you come in, you don't have to explain your story over again. And then I work with your family too, and and then you send me your friends as well, and now we've got these interconnection, and so it's a matter of taking care of people at a high level. And if we're serving them at the highest level, it's just asking people questions, understanding what they want to accomplish, and how do we serve them, right? How do we
listen to them?
And listen.
I don't need insurance, but yeah, you need insurance, but I don't really want insurance, but you need insurance.
Yes. Yeah, you got to listen. You got to listen and read that environment, my best salespeople, people would be customers would be walking out with all these bags and be like, Matt is the best guy ever. And it's like, let me ask you, because there are some people that are some people are afraid to, my salespeople are afraid to sell people stuff. I see that you love Matt, but yet you're walking out with all these bags. And it's like, because he listened to he asked me questions and he listened, and he just got me the stuff that I needed. It wasn't that he oversold me or he was telling me, oh, and then this and then this. He actually just listened.
Right. Yeah. So I think that there was a shift probably right about the iPhone 3G on. The corporation decided that everybody needed to have a buying experience. Not everybody wants a buying experience. And let me elaborate on that. You go to Apple and you get a phone. They want to clap and line up when you walk out of the store.
Yep.
Harley Davidson thought that would be a
Same
good
thing.
idea.
Yep.
I'm like, how can the clientele be the same as an Apple iPhone and a Harley Davidson?
Yeah.
When I went and bought my iPhone years ago, they're like, we're going to clap you. I said, no, you're not. Do not clap me out. I will walk out of the store. I don't want to have it. I went and bought my Harley in 2023. They're like, we need you to go up and ring the bell and so we can clap. I said, yeah, that ain't happening.
Yeah.
I'm not your prize pony. You're not taking pictures of me. No.
Yeah.
I bought a motorcycle, but they've lost their way.
Yeah.
Harley Davidson's lost their way.
Oh, absolutely.
They're nuts. They're pushing this stuff on people so hard. Not everybody wants to have a buying experience. And the other thing is they do not train their sales staff to know about the product. And let me tell you, there's a lot of cool products right now, like Lightspeed. I just signed up for this app called Lightspeed. It's a retail app for the new trailer store I'm opening. Everything was great. The system's simple. It works on an iPad. You get a printer, a thermal printer, a scanner, no problem. They send me all the hardware. The guy says to me yesterday on the first training phone call, he goes through the whole thing. How do you think everything's fine? It's easy. How am I going to set up the hardware? Well, I'll just transfer you over to support. They'll set up the hardware with you. Support didn't even know about their product. They didn't know how to put the Bluetooth printer into sync mode. They didn't know how the scanner worked. I'm like, are you new? Well, no, I've been here for 8 years.
Yeah.
I said,
my God, man.
And I'm sitting in the office next to my wife. I'm like yelling, going, you're not listening to me, lady. Does it have a blue light? Yes, but the blue light is the power on light. Okay, so Bluetooth is on. I'm like, So I hung up, and I ended up making it all happen myself, working all. But my point is, you're selling a product you don't know how it works.
Yeah.
How frustrating is that for the customer?
Dude, that's so frustrating. You've got to know your stuff. And if if you're new, you get it, and you can explain to the customer, I'm new, and if I don't know the answer, I'll go find out, that kind of thing. But you've got to know your product, especially 8 years. How do you not?
Because that's a person that's there to collect a paycheck.
Yeah.
Because I don't know about
for
you,
sure.
I hate feeling stupid. I do a really good job on my own. I don't need to go find other stuff. So when usually in any of my businesses, I have the answer.
Yeah.
I'm the guy at the top. I have the answer. If I don't have the answer, something I'm a little bit, I'll sit there and watch YouTube videos, read about it, and I will be the world's leading expert. There's some things I don't get into, like my wife handles, but what I do, and I know about it. Probably like you. You're not going to sell me a product, and I go, hey, Jason, I really can't log in. And when I do log in, where do I go? You're like, I don't know. I got a percentage.
No, that'd be something I'd be up at 4:00 in the morning about. Like, oh shit, I didn't reply to that or whatever. Like whatever it is.
Yeah, I told Lincoln the other day. He was like, "What do you think of my website?" I go, "I like everything about it, but the buttons are the wrong color. They're really hard on the eyes, and you really can't read with it green. You can't read the white word inside of it." And he stayed up to like 3:00 in the morning with support and stuff trying to rewrite it. He ended up getting, I think, rewrite the code or something to change the colors of the buttons darker. But see, that's how Steve Jobs. You hear stories about what a nut Steve Jobs was about certain colors on the original iPhone.
Oh yeah.
I know you have an Android, but Apple has lost its way of high quality.
Absolutely.
Their hardware's still really good. The phones last forever, but they're starting to be buggy like everything else. And Steve Jobs would rather put a product out that did less but did it great. Like when the first iPhone came out, it didn't have copy and paste.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that was a badass phone because I came up from a BlackBerry to that
Man.
iPhone. It was like, holy shit.
From the BlackBerry. That's
different. That was a bad boy, though. That thing's lasted forever. The battery was great.
Yeah. Oh, man, the battery was great on those things. Absolutely.
But I just kind of like keep wanting to go back. Like these corporations have lose their way, and then they put the little guy on the street to have him sell their widget, whatever it is. And if he sells 20 widgets, they're like, well, next month you can sell 35. That's the cell phone
That was always
game.
my most frustrating thing. Cell phone game, absolutely. And that was what I got tired of at the end. And that's why I ended up ultimately starting my own business. I was like, every month it wouldn't be every month. There was one time at the end where I took a weekend trip with my wife where I just, every time I'd take a trip, I'd turn my phone off completely where I wasn't getting emails and stuff like that. So I was gone for like 3 or 4 days. And when I came back, everything got changed. Verizon was constantly coming out with new plans or new things. And every single time, it was not the best thing for the customer, but then they'd give us our spin on how we were supposed to sell it or explain it. And between that and just watching the way the industry was going, where it was like, let's pay our people cheaper, and ask for more. Let's pay our people cheaper and ask for more. And I'm like, I hate this industry. It's burning me out. This is just, I can't put a smile on and say this is all great stuff, because it's not doing the best stuff. And then you want me to take these people that, that were building up their careers and tell them we're going to cut your pay and ask you to do more, especially my leaders that I'm developing, that they've taken complete ownership. And that's how we scaled. We ended up scaling our business. We had 9 locations across the state of Michigan when I left. We became franchisee of the year in our franchise. We became one of the top companies in our industry. We paid ourselves out of the debt enough to where we were cash flush to where we were constantly, we would do remodels. We were constantly updating our locations and all that kind of stuff. And I'd built up leadership in each one of these locations where, I took salespeople and really mentored them and pushed them to have that leadership mindset of like, let's now develop our people. And they literally, I say ownership. It was like they owned that location, except they really didn't own the location, but they looked at that like, this is mine.
Right.
What happens here is my reputation. What happens with one of my salespeople, whatever they do is an extension of me. And that's the way they looked at it. And I remember my boss came to me and was like, we're gonna like give them like $5,000 more, but we're gonna ask them to run 2 locations. And I'm like, that cracks the whole. Like, I can't do that. I can't put a smile on my face and hype up to my people and look them in the eye and be like, great news. We're going to give you a raise and promotion. We're going to give you 2 locations and give you $5,000 more. Let's go. And it crumbled. All my people left. But I got a really awesome opportunity because we built what we built. I was constantly honest with the owner of our company, Debbie, that what I wanted to do, and especially as we become an influence in the in our industry and all these different businesses were coming, other franchise owners coming up to me in the industry and wanting to pick my brain or asking to take me to lunch or asking if they can pay me to come out and look at their location. You know, I became like an adjective in the sense of like, we need to hire a Jason Tracey in our industry. And that's just kind of the way it was. When I'd go to conventions, there'd be people lined up to talk to me. And it's like, I want to, you know, I see so many people starting their businesses because they have a purpose, passion, expertise, and they get there. And sales and leadership is, you know, is such a struggle. We talk about so many stupid things, not knowing your numbers. And, you know, this company, when I started talking, when I first got there, they were paying people to become new customers. They were literally going negative and paying people to become new customers just so they could keep the residual. And it's like, you guys are losing $30 for every customer that you're acquiring.
Yeah, it's when you see people, business owners that don't know their margins and don't know their numbers, and we were talking about the collision industry right now, okay? They're saying, like, I know all of my utilities alone are up like 23%, right? But the insurance companies are saying, well, there's really no way. We did an analysis of the area and a survey, and, you know, there's really no reason to raise the labor rate, you know? Things aren't really gotten, so let me get this straight. Paint prices haven't gone up. Labor hasn't gone up. They just lie.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is, and I'm going to, not that I really give a shit, a lot of these guys are good body men, but terrible businessmen. So they look at their parking lot and they're like, oh, we could do this. You know, I hear this all the time. Well, we want to be like Walmart. We'll just do a lot. Well, if you're losing money, you're going to go out, do a lot, and go out of business faster.
Yes.
One of the most valuable things I learned was how to read a P&L sheet. And I organized my P&L sheet so I could understand them, because P&L sheets are like voodoo. You know that. I don't have to tell you. You get bubbles. So I do a 3-month, or, you know, what I do is my wife closes everything on the last day of the month. So everything that happened that month, we try to keep it in that month.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So I know exactly where we are to the penny. And when I took over Garrett Auto and Truck, I remember talking to Steve, and the numbers it was doing, he said it'll never really do more than that because of the locations, production. You just can't do more. I've doubled the sales at that place. Doubled. And we're not talking 100,000 to 200. I've doubled, which is crazy, right?
Yep.
Motor City, I quadrupled the numbers there. Or actually, no, I tripled the numbers there since I've got the place. By simple things. Knowing your costs, knowing what you need to make, knowing your overhead, and know where to price the jobs. And looking at a job and going, man, we're really slow right now. Yeah, we could do that one a little bit lower, but not too low, because at that point we're taking money out of our bank account to run the business.
Yes.
And you've seen that.
It's a science. I remember, you know, talking about how many business owners look at and say, oh, it's, you know, the cost is $2. I could charge $10 and I'll be good. Right. Not thinking about the labor, you know, all the stuff.
All the stuff that goes into it. And that's the one thing that I've done steady. I tell my people, and I've always said this, we sell everything the people need. We give them a choice. Okay, Jason Tracey brings his truck in. We check it out from front to rear. Jason, here's all the things wrong with your truck. It's your choice if you fix them all. You can actually pick the jobs on our computer. But you need to call and educate the customer. You're in here for DOT. You could kill somebody because the brakes are whatever. And we educate them, and it's their decision. We don't push it.
Yeah.
But I think along the way, corporate America is after one thing. And that's where I think a small business can do really, really well. Like you said, listen to the customer, take care of the customer. Because you go to Best Buy versus Stan's Electronics, where Stan is standing behind the counter. Where do you think you're going to get the better service? The kid that just got out there from high school, who's a passing crew guy, or Stan from Stan's Electronics, right?
Yeah. But I mean, I was in an industry like our competition wasn't even AT&T and Sprint. Our competition was Best Buy. Our competition was Verizon Corporate. We're a locally owned business that's an agent of Verizon, and Verizon Corporate could come out with either online, or you could walk into their store and on any day you buy the same phone for $100 less than you could buy it at ours.
I've heard that.
Like, and I can't even do anything because we bought the phone for this cost. If I dip down to that price, we're losing $200 on this phone.
SIM cards, they charge $20, and they give them away at this corporate. Yeah. You have to charge $20.
Because we're buying them.
Because you're buying them.
Yeah, we have to buy them. Like, we literally go on the website and we buy them, and they're like maybe $5 or something. But everything we have in our store is coming out of our pocket. Like, it's our cost of, our cost of goods.
Absolutely.
And versus, Not saying that's not the way for Verizon corporate, but Verizon, it's a bigger umbrella, and they can say we're going to charge this price, and they have. Anyways, it's just a different ordeal. We'd have customers that literally come in and be like, "This phone is $100 cheaper at Best Buy. Why shouldn't I go there?" And it's like, great question. You know, when you had that billing issue last month, and you came in here, and I sat on the phone and I got it taken care of for you. Do you think Best Buy will do that? You know, like they won't, you know,
Right.
Verizon corporate won't do that either. And it's like, as a small business, I'm able to give a different level of service, and I have to give a different level of service. First off, that's the way I love operating. I'm pro small business versus the corporation, because I think at the end of the day, you can have great people that work for corporations, but at the end of the day, the corporation is there to please the boardroom.
Absolutely.
They've got to please their most important people are the people that sit in that boardroom.
Yeah. Do you know how many companies I know, medium-sized companies that have under or maybe are barking at the 200 employee range, that a guy started and it was his baby and he grew it to this, and then they get bought out and and the people they have in place are just running it into the ground because they have no clue of what they're doing.
Yep.
And you can see the train wreck coming, and you're just like, it's amazing.
Steve Jobs, man. You know, like look at, and Steve Jobs was this visionary that, I mean, they Apple literally kicked him out of the company. He went and started a little company called Pixar.
Yep. Yeah, right. Yeah.
And then they begged him back, you know, like they had to have him back. And then he goes and they make the iPhone and the iPad, and then he dies, and there really hasn't been a huge innovation since.
Do you know who, you know Matt Parks,
Yeah.
Pat, right?
Yeah.
So Marilyn and Mary are doing a rummage sale over at Hidden Spring Church, and we were over there yesterday, and we were talking about that. And he said, we were talking about their audio-visual equipment. I'm looking at it, and I'm just like, huh. We're like talking, and he's like, yeah, I lived in Japan for a while, and the next greatest thing was this little CD, and you know, it never took off. And I was talking about like the CDs were 700 megabytes and they came out with the DVDs. Remember all that stuff?
Yep.
And then I said that. I said, and then, because we used to keep CDs in high school in our trucks.
Yep.
Listen to music. I said, and then here comes Steve Jobs with that little cigarette box looking thing. Everybody's like, huh, look at this fad, this weirdo.
Yep.
And all the weird people had the iPod, right?
Yep.
And that thing just kept going. Like all your music right there, then it just kept growing. Now it's on your phone. Like, talk about changing the world.
Changing the world.
It's like, you're in the cell phone business. I mean, remember when you would go there and they'd say, oh, yeah, we'll finance that cell phone for you. We'll give you a case. Yeah. We'll give you 2 batteries. We'll give you a charger. It'll be $7 a month on your. And then BlackBerry changed that, if I remember it right, because you guys were selling minutes. Well, all of a sudden, data. Let's sell data because there's too many. There's too many phones on the network. Remember that?
Yep.
And it kind of just went right down to BlackBerry to iPhone. It's just
all of it was to create more revenue for the cell phone companies. You know, all of it. Now, I couldn't live without my phone, and I do my business on my phone. You know, like there's a high percentage of business that I can do just on my device. I can be trapped almost anywhere as long as my phone works. You know, and,
no, 100%.
If people don't show up to a meeting, I'm really not even upset if I didn't travel anywhere because I'm getting work done no matter what. You know, and so there's so many benefits. But you look at the iPad was created just for more sales. Now people use it and they found use for it, but it was just created. The cell phone industry is fun for me because I was there through the whole beginning.
So you were there through BlackBerry. You watched how good they were. Then they went to
watched it all. Yeah.
What was the piece of shit with the clickable screen?
The Storm.
The
BlackBerry
Storm. Too.
Yeah.
I watched that whole movie because I was like in the BlackBerry boom.
That's a great movie. Yeah.
But them guys were so ahead of their time, but yet they were so narrow-minded and like
they're Blockbuster, right? They're Kodak. They were ahead of their time, but they thought that they had such a loyal following they didn't have to adjust. And then Android came out, and all of a sudden you have apps. And you can do these cool things. It's fun. You can play games, but you can also be productive for the business people. You now can, you don't even need a business card. You can do these like virtual cards, and like you can look up any stat online, and it blew the BlackBerry out. And BlackBerry just was like, oh, this app thing will be a fad.
Yeah.
Just like
they used
Netflix
to have
will be a fad.
like little, you plug in the BlackBerry Mesh Manager to put apps on.
Oh man.
Remember that?
Yeah. It was all painful.
It was.
And you talk about like product knowledge, like The BlackBerry was a very intricate device. In sales, I would have at the very beginning, I would avoid selling a BlackBerry because customers would ask me questions about it, and I would feel stupid. I didn't know the answers to it, and so I would just avoid it, or I would like try to talk about something different until I was like, "Why? I'm missing
You need
out."
this Windows device on a Palm. What could possibly go wrong?
On a Palm.
Remember that?
Yeah.
The 700W. I love that thing because.
Yes.
And then we had Palm.
Yep.
You had Windows on the Palm, and
Yep.
then you had BlackBerry, right? And here comes Android.
And Microsoft just goes out; they bite it really hard quickly.
Oh, God, what a piece of shit that thing was! You ever have to clear in the RAM? What a horrible piece of shit that thing was.
So I was selling Verizon. AT&T had the iPhone. They had iPhone exclusive for like 4 years, I think was their contract. And so I had to sell that piece of shit Storm over the iPhone. People would come in and be like, "I want the iPhone. It's so cool." And I'm like, "What
Whoa.
you really want is the BlackBerry Storm. This is where it's at right here."
They would hate your guts because they tried to reduplicate the clicking. Remember that screen?
It was
In the movie, they were taking them out of the boxes and they were breaking, remember? In the movie, I'm like, oh. And them guys never went to prison because of the packets, how they put the data together at the end from message to message. And I'm like, and you have to sell that piece of shit versus the iPhone.
Versus the iPhone. That's when you know you're really good at sales. Or when you have loyal customers that are like willing to go down the ride. It was a very good day when we got iPhone, when Apple went to Verizon. It was like every like year the post comes up because I posted on Facebook like, yeah, we have the iPhone, like.
Well, I will tell you, I went from, I probably had a BlackBerry and I think I went to the iPhone. I was in 12 Oaks Mall one day with Marilyn, and I was just walking by, and I'm like, "What is that thing?" And I went in there and picked it up, and how you could zoom in.
Yes.
I'm like, "Yeah, I got to have it." And it was like $1,500 or some crazy price, I don't remember, but I remember I couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
I put that bitch on a credit card, and it was Edge, so it was so slow.
Yep.
But at home and on Wi-Fi, it was great. And that's when it started. You're right. That's when it started. You put your music on it, and you can start to do work. Now, it's just amazing.
You do everything, and it's so funny. I was in the cell phone industry. I started in the cell phone industry in like 2000, and so after bag phone, but before a smartphone. It was back when the Nokias were out and we played Snake, and it was before text messaging. In fact, text messaging, for those that don't know, text messaging was very hard to sell. Crazy now you think about it, that's all we do. In fact, me and my wife were talking last night, like, remember back when kids would talk on the phone and like the daughter would be like around the corner with the cord, and the cord would be stretched out across the living room, and she'd spend hours on the phone. Like, you don't even see kids talking on the phone anymore. If you do, they're doing video call and they're just like hanging out in video with their friends or whatnot. But most of it, they're sending messages, they're sending texts, they're doing social media. Text messaging was like trying to really sell a product. And then one day, American Idol got made some kind of a collaboration with the cell phone companies, and you had to text your votes in.
Yeah, I remember that. Yep.
And that changed the game. Like overnight, people were coming in and being like, "Tell me about this text messaging. I got to do this text messaging for American Idol." And so all of a sudden, and then that was how people got addicted to American.
Didn't they?
We had text plans. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
We sold. There was a $5 plan for 250 text messages.
Yep. I remember that. I remember that, and I remember. Do you remember Nextel?
Yeah. Oh, that was the first thing I sold was Nextel.
So I could go to their website and log in and send SMSs from my desktop to the phones.
Yep.
So I would everybody had them in the companies. I just worked there. I would send messages, "Hey, we're going to be closed tomorrow." Everybody would get them. How did you do that? Bro, can't talk about it.
Can't talk about it.
But I remember that.
The two-way. That was the first phone I sold was Nextel. And so I had this buddy, and we would always do this like dog and pony show of showing people the two-way, and he was off that day. And so like I was talking to a customer, and I was like, "Yeah, look at the two-way. I'm going to two-way my buddy Brock right now." And I was like, "Beep, beep. Brock, what's up?" And he's like, trying to get through. And he's like, "Fucking Nextel phones." He's like, "These things suck so bad. I can't get through." He's like, "I'm sorry. The signal sucks." And I'm like, "Hey, Brock, I'm just with a customer right now showing off the two-way and how great it works." He's like, "I mean, these work awesome."
I remember we got them too. But, this is a great topic we just went to. I don't want to say the word segue, but
yeah,
from people text messaging all the time versus talking.
Yeah.
They cannot. Have you ran into the situation where the kid walks in, they start like I've used this analogy. A guy walks in to drop off his truck. Hey, I'm here to drop off a truck for so-and-so. Okay, what's it need? I don't know. Do you want to call somebody who does know? I just text them.
Great. Now we got to wait here.
Now we have to wait. I said, maybe you pick up the phone and call him and I'll talk to him because this is taxing on you. But these people cannot communicate. And you heard in Lincoln's clip that you just put up.
Yeah.
How Lincoln picks up the phone. That's me. I tell my people,
Yeah.
pick up the phone and call. Send a text message. You don't know the tone.
Yeah.
You don't know the person's tone. And then if you piss them off, they're always like, LOL. I said, just pick up the phone and sell it.
There was a clip that I love that clip. That was amazing, by the way. The start to finish of that one is like a textbook on how entrepreneurs should run their business from a 17-year-old, right? Like it's right. Amazing. He's so ahead of his time, which is so awesome. But I had a clip very similar when he was on my podcast. He was talking about, I learned that by picking up the phone, I'm getting more aspect from it. Like I can hear the tone in my customer's voice. I can hear, like there's just a different level to communication on the phone or talking to somebody. Or being face to face with them even adds another whole element because now you can see their face and their body language versus a text. There are people that I've managed or led that were on my team that I had to send smiley face emojis at the end just so they knew that I wasn't mad at them. Like because you can't interpret a text. A text, yeah, I'll be right there. It could be like, yeah, I'll be right there, or yeah, I'll be right there, or yeah, I'm going to be right there. Like it could mean so many things.
No, I agree with you totally. And the communication is breaking down. And then people are learning how to sell, not learning how to sell because they can't even talk.
Yeah.
They can't even have a conversation.
Oh, my God.
And I will tell you, I am not a guy that agrees with the government 99.99%. But I would agree. When Big Gretch got on the thing the other day and said, I think we need to stop the cell phones in school, I agree with her 100%. And then we get some clown from the Detroit Public Schools who have one of the lowest testing scores for their students saying, well, I don't think the kids necessarily don't need to have their cell phones. They need to be in touch with their parents. No, they don't. Kids need to go out on recess and get bullied. They need to get teased. They need to be unplugged from their parents because their parents are a lot of the parents are the problem. Just let them go and live.
Man, just look in the Detroit public schools. How many of them even have parents that care or give a shit? Like
Right.
you want to check on their phone? They're not even getting supervision.
Right.
Like
So, yeah, just like these kids need to be unplugged from the electronics. I think that they're at school to learn.
Yeah.
Not talk on their phone or text their friend. Like, come on. And it's just society's just going down this loop. And I was sitting there thinking when you were talking about it, could you really have done what you did in the cell phone industry today with the workforce out there today? It would have been tough.
Ooh, it's a good question, and that's one of those things of like looking at the young sales force, and this is the fact. Like I read in a book several years ago that like 65% of people that are in sales need a new job. They shouldn't be in sales, right? And I would agree with that from all 25 years in the sales industry. That 65% of them out there, and probably more, honestly, like probably 80% of salespeople out there should get they suck. I think that 65% should get a new job, and then the other ones could, under the right leadership, get better.
I would agree with that. I just was looking for a wholesaler for trailer parts. So I go on and I find this web form, put my name in. How would you like to be contacted? Call me on the phone. What parts would you look? Boom, boom, boom. I tick all the boxes. So they asked me for the information, so they had it for the phone call. I get an email. Hi, what are you looking for? First of all, I filled out your form, capitals.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I wanted to call. He calls me. Starts asking me the same question. I go, let me tell you something. You suck at your job. I will not do business with your company. You're horrible. I filled out your form. You can't even take the time to read it. You already look like a dumbass.
Yeah.
Hang up on him. Then I send that email back. Manager calls. Yeah, we've been having problems with him. What do you need? I tell him, all right, I'll get it to you next Wednesday. I never got the stuff.
And that's the thing, like in talking about the ups and the downs and there are so many people that just light opportunities on fire. And then they wonder why they're struggling. And we've talked about, and I know this in you, coachable and always learning. Like it's that grow or die. I know for you and, not loving school, not loving the numbers, and then you get into business and it's a different learning opportunity that you take it and run with it.
Right.
There were so many things that I had to learn and realize that there are so many things that I have shortcomings on and I had to grow, in order to get good. But there's so many people out there that just, their ignorance is not always bliss. Have you ever had somebody that's like sitting and complaining about their situation and you can help them, so you go to give them advice and they're like, yeah, but I like doing it the way that I used to.
I call it the shitty diaper effect. I shit in my diaper, I'm going to sit here.
Yep.
I'm going to sit here and do nothing about it.
Yep.
I always tell my daughter, and I tell Lincoln the same thing. My daughter Cooper's a realtor in Lincoln, and I talk to them a lot about business. I said, when somebody asks me about business and I start telling them, then they stop me and tell me how they do it. I know that they have no clue. For instance, if I was sitting in a room with Elon Musk and he started talking,
God,
do you think I would cut him off and start telling him how I do it? No, I'd keep my mouth shut.
Yeah.
I told my daughter, if you're sitting in a room with a guy that sold 200 houses last year, would you tell him how you sold your 40? No. Shut your mouth and listen.
If you're the smartest person in the room, you probably need to get new rooms. One. And two, it's always the people that portray themselves as the smartest part of the person in the room that's always the biggest jackass.
No, I would agree with that. And another thing of that observation I've made, I do a lot of business with people in Texas, companies in Texas off the web. Them are the nicest people. I don't think I've honestly, the wholesaler I found, the guy's named Jay. He's like, hey, hello, this is Jason. I'm like, hey, what's up? Hey, how you doing today, sir? And I'm like, hey, I'm ready to put a big order. Okay, well, what do you think? So I said, I'm going to put the order through. He's like, holy shit, that's 71 pages. So he calls me back. He's like, I work till 2 o'clock in the morning with this. I said, well, you're on commission. Well, hell yeah, I'm on commission. I like you already. So I messaged him after I put the order through and stuff. He's like, you pretty much bought all our inventory. You emptied our store out. But he was so nice.
Yeah.
He gives me updates and stuff like that. Then you go somewhere in New Jersey, like, what the fuck do you want? You're just like, wow, you're rude.
Yep.
And then they hang up on you.
Yeah.
I'm not putting up with you. You're like, and these are people on the web that are spending thousands, their companies are spending thousands of dollars to be there, get in front of you, and they're blowing the opportunities.
Blowing the opportunity. I've had so many clients come to me that want to put the marketing plan first, that want to spend the money to get people in the door. And it's like, let's look at the way you're handling clients first. Let's look at the way you're handling the situations that are coming in first, because the last thing we want to do is light money on fire.
I went to a class years and years ago, and this is funny. They say most people that don't know anything about business, when they start losing money, the first thing they cut is marketing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
There's a great idea.
Yeah.
They're not finding you. Let's really not make them find you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I get there's ups and downs in markets, but I've heard that lots of times. Where I think you should probably cut a person before you cut your marketing.
Well, and so I love analogies, right? That'd be like back in the olden days of you know what, I'm hungry. I'm probably too hungry to go hunting. I'll just sit here. Hunting should be the thing that I cut. I'm going to conserve energy.
No, I've seen it over and over again where people don't do it, or they don't raise their prices enough to actually market, and then they just go out.
Yeah.
It goes on in the collision world all the time. And we have a tech shortage going on in both business, truck, auto, body, all that. Just, professional people are really hard to find because, once again, corporate America has taken advantage of these little guys so much that they don't want to do it anymore. For instance, just to give you an analogy, say you have a V10 Ford van and it needs an exhaust manifold, which they all need exhaust manifolds. Back when that first came out, I think book time was 2.3. They wanted to give a tech 0.9. And how they came up with that number is they had a guy take hand tools and take a brand new vehicle apart 3 times and do an average of how long it took them. And that was warranty time. Well, we're not talking salt, heat cycles. So these guys are trying to make money and they can't make money and they're just being abused. And now the manufacturers say, well, we're not going to pay you diagnostic time. So they expect these people to come to work for free. So these mechanics are getting out of the business and they're going to do other things. So now we're having a shortage of technicians. And that's all comes from greed up at the top.
Yep.
And the dealerships have to have a service department because they sell that product, so it has to be fixed there. But they've pushed the numbers so hard. We have a thing going, vehicle count has been going down at my shops for years. And I talk to my friends, and theirs are all going down, but repairers are going up. They don't know why. I was talking to Jeff about it, my auto parts guy who was on podcast. I think it's because jobs are taking longer because cars are more complicated.
Yep.
So you're not getting cars through your door. Your cycles counts are way longer than they used to be.
Yep.
Think about it. Back in the 70s, you needed a half inch, a wrench, a 9/16 wrench, a 7/16. You were good to go. Now you have to have $100,000 worth of tools to do this job. Who the hell wants to come and do this job for that? Put that kind of money in. And that's the problem we're running into. Anybody could be a marketing expert or a web expert. They buy a laptop.
Yep.
Or they go buy, right?
Yep.
So that's where I think the shift is coming. And now what most people don't realize, how you see these memes and stuff like that of a lady walking with her kid with the fur coat, and there's a guy over there, doing plumbing, and look at him, you don't want to grow up like that. And then they show this guy made $173,000 last year being a plumber. This lady made $52,000, whatever.
Yeah. Yep.
But that's kind of how it is. Oh, if you're really good in the trades now, you're making bank.
Making bank, absolutely. It's in such demand. And I don't know if everybody even realizes how scary it's going to get if we don't replace the workforce.
No, and the other thing with these people that are paying for marketing companies, if they cannot get metrics or don't get metrics on a monthly basis, they're getting ripped off. There is some of these companies that I don't remember the one from Yellow Pages and all that. They talked about geofencing and this and that, and it's $2,000 a month, $11,000 a year. These people aren't even doing their job.
Yeah,
they're just taking the people's monies.
Yeah,
and you get these everybody's a marketing company, or it's a joke.
And it's funny because you mentioned that, and I drew a direct correlation to Lincoln and our conversation is like everybody can go be an auto detailer, everybody can go be a life coach, everybody can go be a marketer. Like there's these things where everybody can just go pop it open and say that they're this thing. And I've seen so many people fall victim to the here's all the marketing plans that they've purchased, and it's like they're not ever going to execute that stuff. It's what qualifies somebody to be that,
Well, thank you very much for being on. Those 2 hours.
This is awesome, man.
We could have kept going.